Chapter 7. The Checkup, a Distant Threat, the Signal. "All right, let me just finish hooking you up to this one here," said Wanda, sticking one last suction cup to Devon's temple. A long cord ran from the end of the cup to a large stereo receiver which sat next to him on top of a TV tray. Devon tried following the cord's path, but it was lost among the tangled mess of wires and cables that covered the entire floor. His toes curled within his shoes as a spark flashed and hissed from a mismatched connection. Wanda nonchalantly stepped it out, then continued to secure his harnesses. Devon began to feel that this was anything but a typical basement. There was a corner desk at the opposite end of the stairs that was littered with radio components and other types of computerized gadgets, most of which appeared to have been heavily modified over the years. Devon watched as two bright blue lines of electricity hissed their way up two metal rods to his left. "Pretty impressive, huh?" Wanda asked, noticing his intrigue with the equipment. Devon glanced at her, as if bizarre was a look of normalcy around her. "I take it this isn't to broadcast amateur radio," he muttered hoarsely in return. Wanda fastened one more attachment to his chest as she went over all of the connections before turning her attention back to him. "This is a pretty sophisticated planet," she began, "but it seems as if all of the ideas and technologies here are put toward the wrong uses. Life in the universe isn't all about money and control, you know. I, on the other hand, have modified and reprogrammed just about every piece of equipment here to function the way I want it to. Pretty cool, huh?" Devon hesitantly nodded. He was somewhat impressed by the multitude of devices that Wanda had meshed together in her little office. But the lengths she must have gone through to provide some sense of safety was severely lacking. "So with all of this, we can find out what happened to me?" Wanda shrugged. "If my theory is correct, and it usually is, then this just might tell me if you are from this planet or not." Devon's head started to swim with her theory talk. All of the ideas about dimensions and parallel worlds started to give him a pain somewhere in his brain. "So for whose benefit is all of this for, anyway? Yours or mine?" he asked, noticing all of the straps and components hooked up to his body. It was bad enough she made him take his shirt off to attach her monitors, but his arm hairs began goosing to the coolness of the basement air. Wanda grimaced as she turned to the desktop computer to run her diagnostic tests, obviously ignoring the question. Devon sighed. It did not seem like it was going to hurt, but the cup on his head was starting to add to the pain upstairs, giving him a headache. "Okay, here we go," she announced, clicking the mouse button. There was a small tingling sensation from the connections as they slowly began to spread along Devon's nerves. The computer monitor showed an array of colours from what he presumed was the outline of his body. There were a multitude of shades that formed his outline, but the rest of it was fuzzy and out of focus. He wanted to ask her what it all meant, but stopped before anything could come out. Wanda appeared heavily entranced by the information appearing on the monitor. She would probably just ignore him, again. Devon looked back and forth between the two, before finally speaking out. "So, are you going to keep me in suspense?" he asked, feeling his body grow wearisome from all of the hookups. Muscles were starting to spasm. His sore rear end grew uncomfortable from the idle position. He began to fidget around in his chair, feeling as if he had been sitting in a cramped coach seat for hours. "Fascinating," Wanda breathed in awe, catching Devon's comfort-deprived attention. A list of incoherent lines and numbers began to race down the monitor. Devon noticed Wanda's eyes zooming with them, reading along as if it were a casual pace to her. "Your genetic readout and biostructure are in constant flux. There is a certain anomalous vibration surrounding you, but it isn't unstable. It seems to be fluxing at a higher rate than ours." "You know, that sounds pretty damn great and all," replied Devon, oblivious to her jargon. But does it explain what the hell happened to me? Wanda snapped her fingers, turning to him with a grin. As I thought, you are from another dimension, she shouted in triumph. Devin slouched. Great, he muttered. Wanda narrowed her eyes. Aren't you impressed by how you got here? Natural dimensional transportation is a pretty rare phenomenon. I'd say the ratio of it happening is about once every 10,000 years or so. Wanda trailed off, realising what that number meant. It had some significance to it, but for now she just could not place it. So why would I be transported here to find you? He asked, snapping Wanda out of her idle thought. Oh well, that is the million-dollar question now, isn't it? She told him. With this setup, I can analyse an individual or a small object to test its makeup and biosignature. However, I need something a little more sophisticated to check out the grander scope of what may be going on. I might even be able to find out which dimension you're from and send you home. Devin's eyes perked up. Really? This was by far the best news he had heard all day. Devin's hopes had risen for the briefest of seconds before Wanda's sigh of contemplation tore them all down. But it would mean going back to the school on my homeworld, you see, she confessed, before removing the monitor cups from Devin's body. Right, so when do we go? Wanda slowed her hands, her eyes cringing from what she was about to tell him. It might not be that easy. Besides, for one, I don't think I would be welcomed back with open arms, she admitted. Devin gave her a curious look as he rubbed his arms, feeling the relief of being able to move again. Why not? Well, let's just say that I was removed from my position because of a misunderstanding with some of their ethical standards, she replied. You got kicked out, laughed Devin. For what? Experimenting on people? Wanda glared at him. I'd like to think I was working in the best interest of science, if you must know, she argued. But some just don't see the true benefit of what I can offer sometimes. Oh well, guess that's why I came here, to be free of all rules and standards and to practice on my own accord. With that, Devin got out of his chair in a hurry. So we have to find a way to sneak in there and use their things without being noticed then. Doesn't sound too difficult. Wanda shook her head and huffed. Well then, smarty pants, she retorted. If it's just that simple, then how do you solve the problem of us being stuck on this dumb planet? We can't just flap our arms and magically fly there. I guess your little dream girl didn't think of that one now, did she? Devin opened his mouth to try and defend the woman from his dreams, but he couldn't think of anything. His confusion began to rise with the frustration of his newfound dilemma. You guys are stuck here? You're part of an intergalactic society and they won't even bother to give you a ship or even check on you? Wanda grinned. If you knew Ree as well as we do, you'd understand, she muttered. Devin slouched. That was a serious problem. So what do we do in the meantime? Wanda shrugged. Guess we just call it a day and start fresh again tomorrow, she told him. The statement did little to comfort Devin's thoughts. His desire to go home was starting to build with every inch of progress they made. Now they faced a gigantic obstacle, one that did not look like there was any other way around. For now, he was stuck as well. Devin nodded in compliance to the situation as he put his shirt back on, scratched his head and lumbered toward the stairs. Of course you'll be sleeping on the couch tonight, warned Wanda. Of course, he replied. Where else would I sleep? I don't know, she added with a low mutter. You two-girl dreaming perv. Kaya tuned the radio some more, trying to get a better reception. For the last hour, she had been monitoring the local interstellar traffic transmissions on the modified receiver that Wanda had rigged up a few years ago. It was able to pick up broadcasts from outlying ships travelling near this vicinity of space. The only setback was that it could not transmit a signal powerful enough to reach a ship even if it were in orbit, let alone several light-years away. Kaya had gotten into the habit of listening to it every once in a while, just to see if, maybe, Just maybe a ship might be heading in their direction. However, there was no luck here, especially with Ree around. If it were up to me, she told herself often, I would have quarantined this planet the day she set foot on it. Kaya shook the silly gesture from her head and tried to hone in on the signal she had stumbled upon a few minutes ago. They had picked up a transmission from a star freighter that had drifted off course. Their broadcasts were sporadic due to the sudden directional changes, but then became more intense as the transmissions became clearer. It appeared as if they were under some kind of distress, repeating the same statement every few minutes. The freighter had encountered some unknown ships that had caught them by surprise. The captain tried numerous times to communicate, but there was no reply as of yet. The unknown ships were starting to surround the helpless freighter, as if circling their prey before the kill. Ree shivered in her cuddled-up position on the couch, her thin, pale hands clutching a pillow to her chest. What's happening?" she asked, her voice unable to contain her fears. "Shh," replied Kaya. "I'm waiting." There was a crackle of noise as the radio came to life once again. "Freighter to Alterra Patrol! Freighter to Alterra Patrol! Under attack! Unknown hostiles are—" The radio fell silent. Kaya adjusted the tuner again, looking for the signal, but she knew it was too late. The freighter was gone. A figure approached Kaya from behind as her head slumped forward. "What's going on?" asked Devin. He looked at the two, not understanding why the anxiety level in the room was so high. Kaya reached up and turned off the radio. A shipping freighter was destroyed just a few sectors away, she told him. Looking up, Kaya noticed his confusion. It dawned on her that he might not know what she was talking about. Ree's moans caught their attention as Kaya walked over and sat down with her cousin, trying to comfort her as best she could. "I'm sorry," replied Devin. "What does that mean? Are we in trouble?" "It means," added Wanda, approaching from behind, "that whatever has been attacking those ships as of late is getting closer. If they find out about this planet, they may decide to attack us as well. The only ones who know about Earth is the Intergalactic Ambassador's office, but that may change soon, right, Kaya?" Kaya turned to her, realizing their predicament. "If we don't find a way to transmit a message soon," she replied, "we may not be around long enough to see Earth achieve spaceflight. What I don't understand is who is attacking the freighters. There aren't any pirates this far outward, and there aren't supposed to be any life-bearing planets out here either, let alone spacefaring ones. It may be an unknown race we've never encountered before." Wanda thought about that. "That would be unlikely," she said, thinking out loud, "but anything is possible at this point. I just wish we had something powerful enough to transmit a message out of this system." "What about the SETI dishes set up to receive transmissions from space?" asked Devin. "You've got the right idea," Wanda told him, "but they have no way of hitting a sublight frequency high enough to reach Alterra in time. With their present technology, it would take years before they would even receive the message." Devin nodded as it made sense, but it gave him enough to think about. "Is there anything else we can do?" Kaya's lips began to form a grin, following an idea that came to her. It was a sudden revelation as she glared at the person she used to call teacher. "There is one thing," she snarled, her eyes narrowing on Wanda. "What?" Wanda asked, but in a second it dawned on her as well. "Oh no, not that!" Ree's head swiveled between the two. The conversation seemed to put her fears at ease for the moment as her eyes lit up. "Oh, doesn't your little computer thingy have a homing beacon on it?" Wanda cringed. She grabbed the little device from her pocket and held it to her chest. Yes, it does," answered Kaya. "It'll send an emergency beacon back home. Alterra Patrol will pick it up and send someone to investigate." Kaya's eyes beamed with excitement as she got off the couch and took a step toward Wanda. "Yeah," defended Wanda, "but not before it burns out the power supply. I do that and all the work I've collected over the years is gone. There's no way I'm going to let that happen. Devin stared at her in amazement. Here they were on the brink of a solution to their problem, and she, of all people, was being difficult. "Please, Wanda," he begged. "I need to get back home. I'm sure these two really want off this planet. You called it dumb a little while ago. What is it about this place that fascinates you so much?" Wanda glanced at him, then the others. They just did not understand, and yet now she could not think of what it was about it either. But she did not let that side of her conscience show. There was a lot to this planet she admired. Even if it was a different dimension to Devin, he could at least appreciate the value of a place like this. All of the contemporary teachings of galactic geography showed that there should not have been anything in this part of the galaxy except old, worn-out stars and a few gas giants. Nothing prepared them for the shock it created when someone stumbled upon a planet that contained a prospering industrial culture. It was the find of the century, as many prepared to welcome in a possible lost colony only thought to have existed in ancient lore. There was just the one small fact that Earth was not quite ready to be introduced to the rest of civilized space. That put a crimp on the whole welcoming plan. But that did not stop Wanda from being curious enough to leave her home and explore this strange new world. There were things here that amazed her, for even she could not explain many of the strange occurrences that encircled this planet, shrouding its historical existence in mystery. She had so much to learn, so much that needed explaining, but now even she would have to wait just a little longer to do what she wanted to. Wanda's mind sprinted out the door and ran into the woods where no one else could find her. But that was not where she was, and she could not even begin to tell them how she felt. Devin was right. They were all right, for once. Wanda's shoulder began to wiggle from the intensity of the situation. She reached a hand back to scratch the nervous itch until it was settled. Gritting her teeth, she growled a bit in defiance, blowing a huge sigh before finding her resolve. "Oh, you guys so owe me on this one," she breathed, pulling up her device. Before she could think twice about it, she began to enter the emergency codes for the homing beacon. Her fingers danced around on the mini keypad for a second as the screen began to glow brighter. She held the device up to the ceiling as the light that emitted from the device began to strobe. It flashed faster until it was solid again and then shot straight up through the ceiling. A strong surge of light pulsed up, wriggling around, pushing up out of the house and straight into the sky. There was a hissing noise as Wanda dropped the device to the ground, cursing and blowing on her hand. The device began sizzling on the floor, making everyone cower back in fear from what it might do, as the light finally dissipated. "Ouch! Damn, that hurt!" shouted Wanda as she continued to shake her hand, her legs dancing about. Kaya raced to the kitchen, emerging after a few seconds with a cold, wet washcloth. She handed it to Wanda, who grabbed it and wrapped it around her burnt hand. The sudden coolness put an instant look of relief upon her face. Kaya stood next to her, turning her head up to the burn mark on the ceiling. Devin followed her gaze as well. "So, how long before we know?" Kaya shook her head. Wanda put her injured hand under her armpit, trying to ease the dull throb. "Could be a day, could be a week," she winced. "We'll know when we know." "Let's just hope they get it," muttered Ree. "Before the hostiles do at least," groaned Wanda. All eyes turned to her. "What was that?" asked Devin. Kaya glared at her. "What do you mean? They can't get that transmission, can they?" Wanda shrugged with a wince. "It's not meant for specific beings to intercept," she admitted. "It's basically a generic SOS. Who knows who might get it along the way back to Altera? I just hope whoever does see it is friendly." Ree sniffed a few times and then started to cry. Kaya rolled her eyes. She sat back down on the couch, trying to comfort her emotional cousin once again. Devin stood next to Wanda. "So I guess all we do now is wait. Start fresh in the morning, right?" Wanda nodded, noting the hint of sarcasm in his voice. She ignored it, looking to her hand that was glowing bright red from the burn. "That's right," she firmly replied. "Now, if you all will excuse me, I have an injury to tend to." She sighed at their lack of concern and headed for the kitchen. Kaya stared at Devin. She saw in his eyes the uncertainty of the situation. She tried to smile, hoping it would make him feel better. He smiled back, taking some form of comfort with her reassurance. Yet Ree continued to cry, which was not helping anyone at the moment. Kaya held her and rubbed her back, thankful that her cousin could cry enough for the rest of them.